Hey, welcome out there. This is the Geek Branch Podcast. I'm your host today, Dane. This is the Depths of Disorder, and I am joined with my co-hosts Tim, Devontae, and Matt. And we're going to be diving into the depths to do a little digging for Isekai. This is one of the most popular genres in our modern day anime slash manga culture, and it has been a pretty long-standing one at that. So I am here to bring you a little bit of information about the genre as a whole, as well as kind of talk about what's happened to it and why we seem to be getting floodgated by thousands upon thousands of them every anime season. Right. So, I mean, like, Isekai has basically become the new shonen. It is the most popular and populous of all the anime genres that
Yeah.
are currently, making their way through town.
Making my way downtown.
I think it's because
Faces
it's just
passing, I'm
it's
homebound.
it's rude. It's just something super simple.
Yes and no. It's really about escapism and how prevalent escapism has kind of
Becoming
become
our culture.
in both Japan's culture and in American culture.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why it's become so popular. So, Isekai really kicked it out in about the year 2000 is when it first started to come in. Basically between 1999 to 2005, all of the isekais that you know today as being very popular were just about forming. They were coming into existence on as web novels on Japanese forums, where you found me trolling and reading all of them. But they have been kind of expanded upon from there into mangas, into light novels, which is a more complete and basically rewritten version of a web novel, basically made for publication. And last but not least, animes. So like Overlord, Arfietta, Konosuba. All of these are isekais that were getting started right around the early 2000s and have kind of come into fruition and become very popular just recently in the last 2 or 3 years.
And then a few others towards the tail end of the decade, which was the slime reincarnated as a slime and Shield Hero.
Yeah, Rising of Shield Heroes.
And there was a
giant
third one
popular.
I can't think of right now.
Ascendance of a Bookworm is pretty popular.
Yeah, that one's pretty popular.
Coming out.
The one where they get reincarnated as a spider, or I think.
Yeah, so what, I'm a
that's-
spider.
Yeah, that's the one that Cussler's been wanting to watch.
They're numerous, populous, and just mind-boggling at this point by sheer depth and number. But so isekai is, for those who don't know and aren't very familiar, isekai is the genre that specializes in going to another world, and it's very specific because going to other worlds is something that has always been capable of in other genres like fiction and fantasy, where in Star Wars you can just go to another planet. Right. Or in fiction, you might travel to the underworld, for instance. But in an isekai, it specifically refers to a character, normally be a reincarnation, basically dying in one world and coming back in another, or being summoned in case of some a-hole wizard who thinks you need to be the hero and just pulls you out of your everyday life to go and become a hero in this world. You completely leave your home dimension. You have no way of getting back. You are completely just thrusted into a completely new world. If they're nice to you, you can speak the language suddenly, and you come with really cool cheats. If it's not so cool, well, you suck, and you're a standard human being in a world with monsters, magic, and all other types of nonsense. But one of the most important things to recognize is that isekai does specifically have to have you leaving your world and going to another one.
So dot hack sign and stuff like that technically
being
doesn't
trapped
count.
in a video game doesn't count. That is a different genre that has been fused together with isekai. It's not.
I figured that was
It's
what
like
you were
a
about to
subgenre.
say. Yeah.
Right. So that's really important. So just being trapped in the game is not the same thing. That is its own
But what if
unique
they are
thing.
literally teleported into the game?
We talking about like Overlord, Tim. Like he couldn't
Oh
log
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Overlords. Yeah. Well, technically, dot hack they couldn't log out either.
Well, no. Specifically with Overlord, it's still an isekai because the main character is a person.
Yeah,
who was playing a video game.
and got stuck in that world
When-
after the server shut down.
Well, you would say that, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
Because the world that he's in is not the world of the video game. It is a completely new world.
Yeah.
So it counts as an isekai because of that. He just gets brought there as his video game character. The same thing happens with How Not to Summon a Demon Lord,
Yeah,
where he is his video game character brought to a new world.
that's a good one, and they should have finished it.
And it kind of blends the two genres
It
together.
has a manga. You should
I know. I'm just saying the anime should have been finished too, though.
Are we talking about the same anime? Like, when I think of
You're thinking of Devil as a part timer, probably.
no. I'm thinking about the ritual scene.
Oh, how not to summon a demon lord.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You didn't like it?
that's an isekai.
I mean, no, I get that, but you said good, and like, we have two definitions.
Of what good is. No, I don't think that How to Summon a Demon Lord is a good isekai at all.
I
I
think
do.
it has. I think
Cussler,
it has
you
moments.
and him just kind of disagree with that, but I think it's on the like bottom rung
I
of
haven't-
what I'm.
Hey, wait, don't put me in a weeb group.
But I'm saying it's the truth though.
I'm not a weeb.
I think
No,
the
no, no.
magic is
If
cool.
you
Let me
think that's a good
anime,
rephrase
you're
it.
definitely-
I
the
think
magic
it's
is
a
cool.
decent anime for that genre.
There are things.
But my favorite isekais have been Rising of the Shield Hero and Slime.
Okay, did you watch
I hadn't watched Konosuba ever.
Fantasy?
should.
Oh, man,
I should,
Konosuba's
but I
good.
haven't yet.
Fantasy of Grimgar and Ash?
Mm-mm. That's
a
another
good
one I need to watch. Okay.
Yeah, but
I tried to get
there's-
into Overlord
and
and I didn't get
There's an
into it.
infinite number of them, really, and they all can be separated into subgenres at that. But the best way of putting it is that there are some quintessential ones that started the genre off. Yeah, I know, right? But Arfietta is actually one of the very first ones. I think Arfietta kicked off in 2003, and it just recently got an anime. And I think that, like, even in the previous episode of this podcast, we mentioned that it was trash.
Yeah.
It was
And
absolutely
Konosuba was the one that got its own role playing game, right?
yeah, because
D&D book.
because most of these new isekai stories are built using video game mechanics.
Yeah.
Because the writers have come up like us in the age of video games. And so in order to explain the mechanics, the magic, and how that world
It's
works,
a video game.
they reference video game, even though the world itself is not a video game.
Right.
It just
like,
has an overlay
like Shield Hero, they always have like the user interface that he can look at on building the
looking at his own character sheet.
character sheet.
Basically, yeah. So the beauty of that is that it's a way of explaining the world without necessarily having to
Explain the world.
right, like Tolkien would have to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do elves do magic and Tolkien? How does Gandalf do magic and Tolkien? We don't even get an explanation. So it at least it's that to the benefit of it that this video game system has been overlaid. But this is also the core reason why that confusion exists between people who think dot hack and sword art are isekais
Guys, when they're not.
because
What's their genre then?
there really isn't a Japanese term for it. But literally trapped
Stuck
in a
in a
game.
video
Yeah, it's
game.
trapped in a game is a pretty accurate
So
way of
no
just
game,
describing
no
it.
life is
No game, no life is an isekai.
Okay,
you
'cause
could,
they're-
you could put it in like a subgenre of isekai, like alternate world type thing. Not transported to that world, but an alternate world, like a game world.
Right. Well, it's like a fully fleshed out game dimension is the best way of thinking about it. But regardless, nevertheless, it's not an isekai. In No Game No Life, it is an isekai. The thing that makes it confusing is that the god that brought them there is a god of games.
Rar.
My wife is in her onesie or dragon or unicorn. I can't tell.
Whatever it is, it's awesome.
Yes.
But anywho, so when you're breaking down isekai as a genre, some of the most important things to recall is that you have to find the right type of isekai for you. And there are several types. So my favorite ones are horror isekais
Shocker.
and political isekais. I'm also a big fan of romances, but they can be mixed into any other
So-
genre.
Tanya the Evil.
Right. Tiny the Evil is a very political one.
Yep.
I was a big fan of Overlord in the very beginning. There was a point where I was reading the original work, which is, once again, the web novel, that I kind of fell off from it. I think it also kind of gets played out in the anime, but I didn't bother to watch it. Did any of you guys watch Overlord?
I watched like 2 episodes. I couldn't get into it.
I
3
watched-
episodes. Sorry.
I watched the first 2 seasons, and then somebody told me not to watch the third one because it was a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it's right around that same point in the novels where it just kind of like teeters off.
Goes downhill.
Like I came back to the light novel just because I was hoping that the main character bites it. I literally came back out of spite,
And he doesn't.
well, I mean, he's pretty hard to get rid of to begin with, but
I mean, he just summons black holes, so
yeah. Well, that's the whole point. Is that a lot of isekais have an overpowered hero.
Yeah.
Because you come in with
the
functionally
overcautious, overpowered hero. That one that came out this past season, whatever it's called.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, it was really
Surprise.
Well, that's a perfect example.
Example
Like it
of
was
it.
in the title.
Well, yeah. Well, he doesn't necessarily come with a cheat.
Yeah.
He just has ridiculously high stats at base. Like you can't say that it's his fault because normally what happens is you get summoned into the world. The god asks you for like, all right, I'm doing this against your will, but you have to do it. Would you like something? You know what I'm saying?
Wasn't-
And they request items or basically a game-like ability or some type of, general speaking cheat. And so because of this cheat, they become ridiculously powerful in the
Yeah.
world they're going to. In some comedies, they literally take the god. That's literally what Konosuba is. Like she says, "Here, I'll give you a blessing." And he's like, "No, I don't want to go. It's against my will." And he ends up taking her, Aqua.
And she ends up being the most useless person possible.
Right. He would have been better off taking the blessing. But regardless, that's what happens. And because of this, it's really just a wish fulfillment, a type of escapism power fantasy where your character basically, which these characters tend to be really bland and kind of blank slates, kind of like Bella from Twilight. You're meant to self-insert.
Yikes.
Jesus.
It is what it is. Bella is a certain
Well,
Oh
Kristen
my
Stewart sure didn't
God.
help that.
Well, there are certain characters who don't have very strong personalities. Like, for instance, you can't self-insert for like the overcautious hero
Yeah.
because no, most people who got brought into his situation would immediately jump into the fantasy world and not spend a week training in the goddess's room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he has a unique and standout personality.
Do you think we'll keep getting a whole bunch of isekais, or do you think it's gonna die off in a couple of years?
It's a bubble. It's going to pop.
It's gonna get worse before it gets
See,
Better, yeah.
I don't see it going.
Well, I mean,
anywhere
I
anytime
assumed
soon.
it's gonna die. I just wanted to hear his
Got
insight.
like 5 of them this season that's coming up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. But see, here's the problem with the current. What has happened to Isekai is that the thing that made it special when it was first coming up, and the thing that really attracted me to the genre, and made me such a big fan of it, and made me a chronic reader of it, it has been lost.
Right.
It is current.
Lost its heart.
Well, much so like, other things that I would have spoken about today. It's no longer the original source in which it was because
There's a template for it now, and people use that template instead of trying to come up with their own original.
right, and then they take that basic system, and what happens is not only are all these things very comparable, but the only differences there are just the talent of the writer is the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
Like the better the writer, the better the isekai, but that's about it. It's not
Yeah.
like the genre's
That's-
changed much.
That's why I feel like
well,
we're past the last of the real good isekai.
right, and they're also their novels, their actual stories are wrapping up as well.
Yeah.
Right, and some of them
of the big group of
the original the original big core that brought the genre together and brought it forward. And so what's happening here is that we have lost not only just the heart of it, but it's becoming like Hollywood reboots
right.
where every new isekai, if it doesn't have a gimmick, it's just a retelling of a story you're familiar with. And these characters can almost fit a certain template. For instance, there's no difference between the goddess from Overpowered Hero and Aqua from Konosuba. They are practically the same character.
So, what do you think's going to be the next bubble anime, or because that's what we're primarily focusing on
Well,
what's popular in the anime
Right.
industry right now?
So if I was following trends, right?
Yeah.
And I was to say that Isekai, which came up in the 2000s and then finally hit the scene like it did roughly around 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
So about a 10-year period after, if this bubble was to pop and something else had to quickly come back and take its place, I think that the thing that would actually be occupying the slot again would actually be shonen.
Yeah, shonens are starting to become a bigger thing again, which is a weird thing to say because it's normally the
it's been very consistent, but it's
Yeah.
kind of I think a shonen revival is probably going to be the next big genre that comes out of Japan, because that's the one thing that Japan is also really good at doing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way of really dismissing that.
You know which one would be right in there, right as that bubble would burst? Samurai 7. That would probably be the big shonen that would bring it back.
Yeah, we're going full circle. We're about to hit that space sci-fi genre again.
Yeah.
Well, I know for a fact Mecha won't be coming back anytime soon.
Nah.
Yeah, it needs a
That's
break.
like on the outside looking in.
Becca-
Can I get in the anime house?
Yeah,
Well,
but-
it doesn't help that like what was it? Was it the 80s or it was the 80s when it started. And the whole reason why the mechas were birthed was for toys. It was Japan
well,
using the American system of using animes to sell
yeah.
toys.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
It was a big reason why they made so many.
right. That's true. But like, Mecha is a really unique evolution. But that'd be literally another segment on another genre.
Right. Well, I mean, the beginning of mechs, that was when
the
they were like Power Ranger shows where they were like the villain of the week that they would destroy, like
well, to put it to you like
at the
this,
beginning of it.
Well, that's not the beginning of it. That's the boom.
That's the boom, was the
Because
80s.
you can actually say that the beginning of mecha anime actually starts with non-mecha. It actually starts with things like Astro Boy
Yeah, and then
Speed Racer.
Robotech.
And yeah. And actually, those things are actually what you consider to be the beginning of
Yeah,
mecha.
and Robotech is very, very, very good.
And then it culminates from the 50s going into the 70s with Voltron.
Yeah.
Where we actually start
Yeah.
getting our first mecha. In fact, mecha also bleeds into
The Netflix Voltron show is actually really,
Yeah,
But-
my brother's been trying to get me to watch it forever.
It's good.
He says it's super good.
yeah.
Right.
DreamWorks is good at making good animated shows, not movies.
but so going back to Isekai and
Shrek is
just
pretty good. I'm sorry.
right donkey but but going back to Isekai, the thing about Isekai is that it's a really unique and wonderful thing because it's a story that we would all be interested in
Happening to us.
us, right?
It's like the DBZ phenomenon that happened to us, where we'd all like try to power up to be a Super Saiyan.
well
didn't.
no
And I know, but it's the equivalent of imagining if you were in that situation.
actually the thing that I would compare Isekai to for Americans is actually Harry Potter.
Yeah, I can
It's
see that.
it's getting the Hogwarts letter.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because Harry Potter is about the closest thing you're actually going to get to like the American version of Isekai. That and John Carter.
Yeah, except for John Carter. Well, that was a really old book, and then.
But I'm just saying, if
movie
you had
bombed.
if you had to find something that is similar to the Isekai genre in American culture, Harry Potter and
Percy Jackson,
I don't want to be Percy.
not him, but his world.
Yeah, and
in the
no.
books, not
Yeah.
the movies.
No, not the movies. I'm talking about in the books.
Well, see, the problem with Percy Jackson is that like the world's innately like that to begin with. Percy just doesn't know.
Well, a lot of people don't know.
Well, my point being is that
The mist conceals.
Yes.
right, and we understand there's a reason for that, but it's not necessarily the same thing. It's very close to Harry Potter. Yes,
You can make the same argument for Harry Potter though, because it's a world that already exists. It's not necessarily. It's the
And
same
it's
boat
hit-
as
yeah,
Percy Jackson.
and
It's literally the same thing.
yeah.
Because
and-
it's already there. It's not
right. But see, the problem is that with Harry Potter, there is the journey to the new world, and in Percy Jackson, it just came to you.
No.
No,
I
he
mean,
had to get
he
to
had
the
to
camp.
go to camp.
Yeah,
Like
he
he
had
had
to
to
go-
drive to the location. He had to drive to his Hogwarts.
yeah.
No.
And he
no.
almost died on the way there.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but what I was specifically referring to is that, like, in the case of Harry Potter, you got the letter, and then
There's
that's
like a Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Right,
moment.
right,
You
and-
don't get that with
Percy
Percy
Jackson.
Jackson.
It's something that introduces you to the world in a way that draws you from the normal to the new.
So
In Percy Jackson, the new came to him, and then he went
which
to
is
the,
true because he was forced into running to the camp.
Right. See,
Yeah.
okay, I got you.
It's the difference between being invited to a new world and a sudden discovery.
I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the Harpy teacher / Minotaur event is the same as Hagrid showing up on a fucking boat and going, "You're a wizard, Harry." Like it's the same thing almost. to me.
But the difference being is that like the letter comes first,
Right.
rather than if Harry Potter started on the island and Hagrid just suddenly appeared, then it's almost the same thing because it's
because there's a childlike excitement to the letter aspect.
Right.
Of it.
It's the difference of something intruding into your world and you being invited into a new world.
Where
'Cause
Percy was more forced into his legacy.
It's a giant intrusion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because he absolutely had no clue who his dad was, and then on top of that, he was like the only person in his campsite area. Because people that hadn't read the Percy Jackson books, but everybody was divided by each who their father or mother was, and so he was the only one in his, because his dad didn't sleep around like some of the other ones.
Don't even get me started.
Well, he did, but it was just like not on the same.
Well, no, it was. You have to remember that the reason why Percy is alone right now is because Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus made a compact.
Oh yeah, to stop
after
making
World
kids
War
II. Yeah,
And-
because of Hades' kid.
And Poseidon is the one that breaks that rule. Percy is actually
Because he legitimately fell in love with Percy's mom.
but it doesn't matter.
I know,
All
I'm
I'm
just
saying
saying.
is that you
Well,
can't.
he also had his Cyclops brother.
What I'm saying is though, if you're going to like point the finger at anyone for being a good god during that time frame, you can't point it at Poseidon.
Well, yeah, but Zeus broke the rule too.
Yes, but then yes,
So did Hades. All three.
no,
of them
no,
did.
Hades did not. Hades' kids were stuck in the Lotus Club.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah, and then
Hades-
Hades' kid didn't he have a kid later after the rules were broken?
No,
No,
it was just Nico and
Yeah, Nico, but
and his
Nico
sister.
wasn't brought in until
his
later.
sister.
yeah, but that's because they were born before then.
Yeah, but
and
they were
lost
stuck in the Lotus Club,
So
which was a casino that you could be stuck in forever.
it's the same thing as the Lotus Island.
Yeah.
The island of the Lotus Eaters.
Yeah.
It's Greek mythology.
Yeah.
My point being is that when it comes to Isekai, the thing that is so captured about it, the thing that makes it so cool is that we all not like to leave our normal mundane lives, go and have an important purpose in a new world with superpowers, because that's been the thing that has sold people
With
in Isekai.
no baggage from your past holding you back.
I would say yes, but then Shield Hero proved that
Yeah.
might not be a good
Whoa,
idea.
whoa, whoa.
That's what was refreshing about Shield Hero is that he just got the shit kicked out of him.
And that's the reason. But
Yeah.
Shield Hero's actually old. Shield
The
Hero is
the
a part of
book
the
is.
is a part of the original generation,
Yeah.
which is what made it so
Which
special.
is why it's going to be it's in the quartet Isekai or quartet anime.
Isekai Quartet, yeah. The best of them are actually some of the oldest of them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the funniest thing. And one of the ones that could have been
because
really
they were
good.
the ones that formed this genre. That's why.
Right. And then they were also really, really misconstrued, and it's really unfortunate. Like Arfueta is one of the oldest ones, and it has a really interesting story that people have taken the wrong way for a very long time. There's a subgenre of isekai that is basically revenge fantasy, where you and all of your classmates or you or all of your coworkers get transported to a new world, right? And when you get to the new world, either two things happens. You still get dogged on by all the people that dogged on you in the real world, or you immediately get a power up and you're better than all of them. And in Arfueta, it's the case that he still gets dogged on in the new world. All of his classmates still treat him like garbage. And he has a power, but that power at the beginning is considered to be garbage within that world. So he has nothing going for him. And his classmates betray him and he almost dies a horrible death. And luck sacks out into such a way that he gets to come back as a powerful character. And what Arfueta does is, rather than having him go back to his classmates who did try to murder him and do horrible things to his classmates, including, the full revenge fantasy arc, he actually goes and lives a normal life. He gets married, adopts a child, and then proceeds to adventure through the world. And it's wholesome, reasonable, and actually probably one of the best ways of telling people that this is how you should deal with your problems. You will eventually grow up to be free of them. You know what I'm saying? Even though you suffered during this period, there's a new world out there as an adult or at a new job or in a new town where you could have a better life. And it spawned an entire subgenre that misconstrued that, where their entire purpose of these other characters is to get the same power up he got and then go back and torture their classmates for 3 books. It's like the darkest part of the genre. And I'm assuming that what's coming is those stories are going to be coming to anime, and I think that's going to be the end of the bubble. Is that they're going to
revenge ones?
Yeah, the revenge plot ones are going to be starting to come through.
Yeah, this year has a lot of mature series coming.
Right.
Yeah, the inverse or whatever it's called. You know, the one you shared on Facebook the other day.
What, Infinite Dendrogram?
Yeah. And then
Say that would
Darwin's
be,
game.
like mature. Darwin's game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
That's like Future Diary, isn't it?
It kind of reminds me of King's Game.
Yeah.
Have you seen King's Game?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
So I think that that's going to be the downfall of the isekai genre bubble, is when those animes start being picked up and ran, because they're actually subverting and damaging the thing that made isekai wonderful and beautiful and that was really attractive
The
about
bright
it.
side of it.
Right. Because it's really a high fantasy.
Yeah.
It's no different than, being Luke Skywalker and going off into this new world of Jedi
And then ruin him by making him a hermit that almost kills his nephew.
Right. Well, yeah, you just take away the magic. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what I fear is going to happen with the genre. And then in the genre itself, it's also
going to go there.
It's really flexible because it fits. There's something for everybody, right? If you like slice of life, there are literally isekais where they travel to a different world and open up a restaurant.
Yeah, well, there was
the
that
dragon one that's looking for a home,
right?
Like the dragon realtor.
That one, it's not. I don't think it's technically an isekai, but it's one where people literally go to this particular restaurant and it's open to multiple worlds.
Right. And there are tons of them where they're just slice of life. There are comedy ones like Konosuba. There's also like I Became a Vending Machine in the Dungeon, where somebody literally got isekai'd, became a vending machine, and literally helps adventurers by roaming around the dungeon as a vending machine. That is his story. He meets new people.
Wow.
Same thing with So What, I Became a Spider.
At least with the slime.
My room is a dungeon pit stop.
Yeah, right. So
at least with the slime one, he was able to eventually form into a person.
Really powerful, an amazing character.
Yeah.
But so that's my whole point, is that some of them are comedic. They hit everything. There are horror ones. Like Overlord is actually a really horror-centric one, because the guild that got transported over to that world is filled with monsters.
Yep.
And so that plays out how you would expect it to play out.
Is there any other horror isekais?
There's quite a few that are really dark and horror styled, but the only one that's been
animated.
Yeah, the only one that's been no, there's two. There's two that have been anime adapted.
What's the other one?
One was not very popular, even though I love it to death. It's really long because the title is 3 full sentences, but I'll shorten it to What Are You Doing at the End? It came out maybe about a year or two ago. And it's a horror isekai, even though it's not technically an isekai, because what happens is that the main character is from a different age. He has a Vasher Stampede type of syndrome going on, where his original world is the correct world, and he was a person who fought in a war during that time period, and he ends up being frozen alive, kind of like Captain America. And when he pops back out, the world has completely changed to the point you think it's an isekai because it's nothing like the world he was originally from. And then he eventually learns later on that this is what remains of the world that I fought to protect.
Right.
So it's not actually an isekai, but it's sold as one. And I think the full title is What Are You Doing at the End? Where are you going? Can I help you? So it's like a really long.
No,
every year there's like 5 different sentences added.
I don't like any anime that has that long of a title.
Yeah, it's for some people. It's not.
There's some good ones out there.
but no,
It's too long.
So like, we have the comedies, we have the horrors, we have the actions and the shonens, and we even have like the ones for people like Cussler. Because the one that he wants to watch this year, the review thing is an isekai, so it's for Cussler. There's also that one where he gets isekai with his mom. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have caught that. I think it's becoming an anime.
It is an anime.
Yeah, right.
I watched it.
He gets isekai with his mom, and it's basically a relationship between the two of them. And I'm like, I'm gonna leave that one in the corner over there.
Because that one, knowing Japan, it probably gets really weird. Incesty.
It's actually pretty good. It's like, do you love your mom and her 2-hit magic combo?
Right, but it's like implied is the thing.
It's like him building a relationship with his mom because he's kind of like distant or whatever. And his mom is like super overbearing.
Yes.
I still don't trust it.
She's a helicopter parent. And the really cool thing about it is that it goes to show that even though they have to travel to another world for this to occur, it's really about building a relationship between their family. There's another one where I'll defeat the demon lord to protect my daughter.
Yeah.
Where dude isekais, starts a family, and then finally, by the way, because he isekais and doesn't have a purpose at the very beginning, so he settles into the world, meets somebody, has a family, has a kid, and then the demon lord appears some years later, and he's like, "Oh, this is what I was here for, and now I have to do it because I have a kid to protect." It's really cool. There's something for everyone in the isekai genre, and I don't think that it's bad. I think that isekai is a really wonderful medium to tell stories through. I just wish and hope that as we go forward into the future, that people don't forget its roots, that they don't,
Right.
misconstrue the magic, and that they don't decide to just make it grim dark nonsense, because it's so prevalent that all of these stories take really, really dark turns and just turn the hero, who's supposed to be really relatable, because you're supposed to be able to step into his shoes and also go on this journey just like he did, into someone that you can't stand. Because that has happened to me multiple times. It happened in Overlord and it happened in Shield Hero. And that's reading, by the way. The anime had the beauty of fixing it, which is something that I really recommend for people. Sometimes
It's one of the few times where he actually recommends the anime.
right. The anime for Shield Hero is infinitely better than anything written related to it. Please go and watch the anime, because
read the manga.
well, the manga also works too. Sorry.
Yeah, he read the light novel.
Right. And so Mine, the princess
Yeah.
from
Here we go.
no, I'm not gonna go into a giant rant about it. I'm just saying that, like, there's a giant difference between the web novel and the early version of the light novel as to her fate and how the queen acts, as opposed to the corrected anime
So
and
she
manga.
was on her evil daughter's side in the light novel,
No. Her mother is just like unbelievably cold-hearted and cruel,
and
as
she's a lot
opposed to
more
motherly in
Yeah,
the
where
newer
she
editions of it.
basically was like forced into doing something about it, and Shield Hero, being Shield Hero, basically helped the mom by not punishing her as to death.
Right. And so, like, let me tell you just a little bit about how dark the original work is and how much has been brightened up in the new adaptations. And I'll wrap that up as one of the things for this. And I hope this continues to happen with some isekais. If somebody wants to grab an isekai and adapt it and brighten it like they did for Shield Hero, you got my money. I'll take that any day of the week, because grimdark is not what this genre needs.
No,
So Shield
supposed to
Hero,
fill you with hope.
Shield Hero originally, because of the way his character works, doesn't have any offensive potential. So he goes and buys Raphaelia from a slave trader,
Right.
right? And because of
Talia.
Raphtalia, sorry,
Yeah.
I never got to actually hear anyone ever pronounce that. So I've been calling it Raphaelia for years because I never watched the anime. So regardless, Raphtalia, that's really cool.
Of course, if you watch it subbed, you wouldn't know how to say it either, because
Well, I mean, the pronunciation is still there when somebody actually says her name, but that's just me. So I'm actually very happy to actually know how to pronounce it at this point. But Raptalia, so he goes up, actually procures her, and together they come up with this little combo that, because he owns her, he gets experience for anything that she kills, and she gets to get, fed, clothed, and they actually get a pretty good relationship going between the two of them. Well, in the manga, it was not in the manga, sorry, in the web novel, this kid is dark, right? It is dark.
oh, so he's way worse to her than in that,
Well-
because he's not terrible to her at all in the anime.
His life sucks in the
Yeah.
actual world. You don't actually get to see his life before what happens to him before he gets isekai'd in the anime.
Yeah.
But his life sucks in the original world. And
So he's used to being crapped on.
right. And so when he finds the book about that world in the Shield Hero, he gets transported to it.
Yeah.
And he is overwhelmed with hope that in this new world with a great purpose, he can make a better life for himself. He is riding high on this like euphoria that his life can change and it could be better for him. And then you discover what happens with the Shield Hero.
Right.
The Shield Hero is the hero that betrays. So everyone has already in that entire world turned against him from day one.
Because they assume that's what's going to happen again.
Right. That they're just biased against him before they ever got a chance to actually know him. So you notice that when they were recruiting heroes to basically work for the other four or all the groups, they were recruiting adventurers to be their partners and in their party. No one picked him
Right.
except for Mine. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he takes Mine's betrayal infinitely worse in the original work than I could ever even begin to explain. Like
so he was actually abusive to
the reason why he bought her is because she looks like mine.
okay.
And he was
in the book.
in the book. And so he's
see where this is going.
Right. He's passing on all the hatred he has for that character onto Raphaelia. And it just proceeds on from there to just slide straight downhill. There's nothing enjoyable about that.
And then the author figured out that was a bad idea.
Yeah, right. Because, like, for instance, mine has her name changed, like, what, 2 times in the series? Because every time she gets punished, he's just like, you shall no longer be called mine, you will be called...
And so, she gets her name changed another time?
Yeah, she gets changed. But the reason why it occurs is because he hates her so much that that's the only thing he refers to her as.
Right.
And so when it comes up that she's lost her title and name as a princess, since he only calls her that because he hates her so much, that's how she got that name. It wasn't any type of like funny joke or like,
not like in the anime.
Yeah, shameful idea just to like punish her.
It's just how much he hated her.
That's all that he ever referred to her as. Yeah. And so when he was looking at Raphaelia, I'm gonna have to take a while to get that name correct. When he's looking at her, he just thinks she looks exactly like that. It's just
so you call her that all the time too, right?
Well, he has her name, but like because it's a book, you can read his own thoughts, which is something that you don't often get in animes.
Yeah.
Like, stuff is dark. And I am infinitely happier with the adaptation that has come out from there. And the same thing happens in Overlord, where just things take a really, really, really dark turn.
Yeah, they realize that doesn't adapt well.
Right, because people don't want that in their stories, which is fine. Sometimes you just need to sell people hope and sunshine. And, you know, and I'm the guy that loves horror, and I love dark things.
But sometimes it doesn't work for everything.
Right, because you want to like the main character. You want to have a
I wouldn't like him very much if
relationship.
he was like that towards her when she did nothing to him.
Nothing wrong. Like, he literally bought her just for that reason. Not because he needed her, not because he had some great idea about how they can both have a better life together. Purely out of hatred is how that relationship starts. So I'm like, that's not something that I really could enjoy. And so when it comes to Isekai, I recommend that people do branch out, that people do start enjoying what you have enjoyed so far and what's to come. And if you want to, take a step back and pick up light novels and web novels for certain Isekais. Maybe go on Reddit or forums and kind of get an idea about what you're picking up before you dive into it. But I am a fan of the genre, despite all of these negatives that are coming out, either with the absolute spam that has been the last few years, or the darker tones and tints that have been popping up. I think that it's still something worth looking into. And so that's kind of just a retrospective on the Isekai genre. This has been the Depths of Disorder, and I'm signing out.
Bye, guys.